John, do you want to tell everyone what happened after last week's recording session?
So, I so the last time Lee and I were recording, as I'm sure you're all aware, in the first episode that we brought about after the hiatus, I may have been coughing, and spluttering a little bit. Just a little bit. And I said the infamous line, "It's not COVID, don't worry." It turns out that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it was.
So yes, I'll do a little. I'll explain myself. A few weeks ago, by the time that we're recording this now, this will have been a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because we recorded like 3 episodes in a day, didn't we, or something like that?
Yeah, I think we did about. Yeah, I think we did about 3.
3 episodes, yeah. And so I, by the time we got to that Thursday in that week, I by the Monday at the beginning of the week, I started to feel like I was just getting a cold.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was like, because I know the early onset signs of a cold. I'm sure most people do. It might be different from most people, but I know if I'm getting like a leaky sensation in the back of my throat.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm getting a cold. So, and of course it did. It developed into what I thought was a mild cold. But the thing is, I was still able to function. I was still able to go about my everyday life. I mean, obviously I was like, I had a bit of a bung. No, I was sneezing a bit. I had feverish, symptoms, like, and the tickliest of coughs.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I could still taste, I could still smell, I wasn't feeling particularly achy.
The classic COVID symptoms.
The classic COVID symptoms, yeah. Like the ones that we're meant to
be aware of.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that troublesome of a cough either, So I was, and the biggest thing for me was, it felt like every other cold that I've ever had. And not even a serious one. It just felt like a really mild cold. So I still went to work.
Yep.
I went to work. I recorded 3 episodes of the podcast with you.
Yep.
I went to I went to a recording studio with my band, and we've recorded our first single.
You basically locked yourselves away for a weekend.
Locked myself in a room with 5 people for an entire weekend for several hours, and which we'll be releasing soon, by the way. But yeah, so, and then as a result, I get home after the recording session, and my mum says she's feeling a bit lousy.
Yeah.
So she goes, and they were meant to be going to Scotland for a week at that point, and so she decided to do a test just in case.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, and it turns out it was COVID. And then I went, oh Christ! And I went, I'd best do a test because I think you've probably gotten it from me. So I did a test, and yeah, it was positive. So I was like, oh shit!
Then I got a message from you on the Sunday night.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, I'm tested positive for COVID. I went, for fuck's sake! So alright, cool. I'll go give a test. Like immediately when the drops went in, it just went purple, like full line. I was like, well, I've got super COVID now.
Super COVID. So as a result, I gave it to Lee, I gave it to my girlfriend Katie, I gave it to Hannah, the front woman in my band, I gave it to my mum. Hannah then subsequently gave it to her parents, then gave it to our boyfriend Harry.
I gave it to my partner.
You gave it to your partner. I gave it to so many people.
John the super spreader.
Literally a super spreader. But the good thing is though, I didn't give it to my dad. And because he's like classed in the vulnerable category, yeah. So we didn't give it to him, despite being surrounded by 2 people with COVID. My girlfriend actually then gave it to her mother and her sister. Literally, I like super spreader. Literally, I went 2.5 years, like not like avoiding it.
I worked for the public for 2.5 years straight.
Same. Literally, we both work in the public sector. Like you work in a supermarket, I work in a theatre. How we've avoided it until very recently is a miracle. But the thing is though, that's the main reason, like I said, why I didn't do a test, is because I just thought this doesn't feel like COVID-19 or what you're meant to, because I know people who've been leveled by it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I felt like shit, but that was because I thought I was in for a week of work pretty much.
Well,
I worked
exactly.
nearly for work straight.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mostly 4:00 starts, so I was wrecked anyway.
It's exactly the same with my mother. Like, she didn't think it was COVID until she did a test. She just put it down to the fact that she was up every morning really early that week.
Yeah.
Like at 6.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, just at 6 o'clock. Just when my dad was on the shift he was on at work. But like. Yeah, but that's the thing. I wouldn't have known it was. I would not have done a test. I wouldn't have known I had COVID. To be fair.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on doing one. I mean, when I rang work and I was saying that. So, I think I've had COVID for about a week, but I've only just tested positive for it. So, and I feel, and by that time, I was starting to feel okay again.
Yeah.
I was starting to feel like I was on the tail end of it. And then that following week, I was off work, and I was like, I'm really starting to feel. It took like a full week for it to fully dissipate out of my body,
same.
like for the test to go fully negative. But I felt fine, and to be honest with you, I didn't feel really that bad at all. Really, I mean, so I was woefully unimpressed with COVID-19. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. That's not to say that some people really get.
It's a good job we're double vaxxed.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, I think I'm triple vaxxed, I think.
I'm double. I know that for at least.
Yeah, I think I've had like three jabs, I think. But yeah.
I did feel like I lost my sense of taste. Like,
Did you?
yeah, I really enjoyed the first Suicide Squad film. I knew something was up then. I've said that joke to so many people with different bits of media. Like,
excellent. That was very good. That was good. Excellent timing.
but yeah. Well, anyway, from that thing,
Yes, but we're both recovered.
Yeah, both fine.
Both fine now, totally fine. Everyone else I know who's got it, who had it, was totally fine. I mean, Katie, bless her, she suffered a bit more than me. But it was. Thank God I didn't give it any rest of the band. I mean, I didn't give it to Jamie, Jake, or Ryan. Ryan and Jake thought they had it, but they were fine. Turns out they were absolutely fine. But like, yeah, and the guy who was recording the single, he's fine as well. I just thought, oh my God, like literally, I've infected the world. Like,
when you first sent me that message, I was just like, oh God, he's just been a weekend away with his band.
I know, literally, I was like, oh my God, like. Well, my parents had to cancel the trip to Scotland, so I felt a bit bad for that. But I thought, well, sod's law.
Give me a week off work.
It was exactly. It was bound to happen at some point. Do you know what I mean? Because it wasn't a case of. I think we all got to this point where it's like it's not a case of like, if you'll get it, it's when you'll get it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because of and I knew I knew we were gonna get it at some point, and so it was. But now 3 months immunity, so that's all right. But yes, as you were saying, now we're back. We're fine.
Yeah. Stranger things have happened.
And stranger things have. God, you're on fire today, like.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So yeah, for this episode, obviously by the title, John's watched Stranger Things for the first time.
I have,
which
yes.
I'm really surprised at.
I know. It is surprising for me as well because I remember when it came out.
We were in uni. Everyone talked about it.
Everyone was talking about it. It was because it came out in 2016.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and that's like a year into when we started uni.
Yeah.
So which is so long ago now when you think about it.
I know.
God.
6 years, dude.
6 years, man. Jesus. Where has the time gone? But yeah, everyone was talking about it. Literally everybody. And this is a time when I didn't have Netflix.
Yeah.
So I was like really behind on this entire on the whole thing. With like, like the Netflix original series, like I mean House of Cards, like Stranger Things, any of the other big like series. I know that Breaking Bad is not a Netflix exclusive.
Yeah.
But it kind of is now.
Yeah, I think it was on FX or whatever at the start with. Then they moved to Netflix, and Netflix got the rights to do the rest of the season. Something like that.
They did the rest of the season. Then they did El Camino, and then they did obviously Better Call Saul and all that. But no, I was so. I mean, I was so behind on all of it. And I remember everyone talking about it, and I saw like the trailer as well, not the trailer, like images from it and shit like that, and loads of different things, and I think there was a passing interest in it, but like I always there was always like this feeling in the back of my head of going, you should probably watch this, and you should probably find a way to watch this, And
That's me with a lot of things.
yeah, it is, yeah. I was so behind. I'm honestly, dude, I'm so behind on like so many things. I finally years ago. I finally watched all of Daredevil,
Yeah.
which I
Still
thought
haven't seen all of it yet.
which is really good. Jessica Jones season 1. Haven't seen Jessica Jones season 2. Don't really have any interest in doing it. Haven't seen Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I've seen a bit of the Defenders. I haven't seen Iron Fist, but nobody has. And and other things like that. I mean, I'm sure there's another like big series that I'm missing out as well.
Probably.
But anyway, even when I got Netflix like a few years ago, I still didn't watch Stranger Things, and it's only taken me until now to see it. And I really wish I had seen it earlier, just for the sake of references that everybody was making. Like, the biggest one was I don't know if you remember this, but quick little anecdote. I remember when we were doing, I think we were in third year in university in our filmmaking degree, and we were doing, and you'll remember we were doing the modern day slavery films.
Yes.
And I don't know, because yours was the like living in a flat situation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it that all went to hell, didn't it?
That was the worst shoot of my life. I rescued that thing and got no fucking accommodation for it. You know why? Because it sounded fine. It didn't sound shit, it sounded fine.
Yeah.
Because I rescued it from being shit to fine.
That's been your rule in so many things, hasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Like, just rescuing films from the depths of hell.
So to give it a thing, so the best thing I can say, like the best thing I fixed from that example is, so it was a cut from one side of the flat, like the doorway, and then a cut to the other side of the flat where like all these people were just like sitting there, just kind of like looking, like hating their life. But the sound from it, because it was like two different people recording it, because it was just no one had a good time when it was doing. I was never half the shifts because I had work and stuff like that.
I remember everybody was miserable.
Yeah.
From that shoot.
So the one part of the room, and then when I moved the other part of the room, the sound quality was so different. You could hear like different, like just the room sounded completely like different from both things.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's no way I can fix this. There's nothing I can do. There's no like what's the word I'm looking for? Where you just record the entire room. What the fuck is that called?
Oh, Atmos.
Atmos. Sound guy doesn't know his own sound. So there was no Atmos, anything like that. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And this was the day before, because we didn't get the edit until the day before. It was the night before.
Oh my god, I remember that,
So we worked until 2 a.m. doing it. And I said, what the fuck can I do? And it's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just do something, put it in the middle, and make sure like it just sounds okay. So I downloaded like someone coughing. So all you heard... So between the two shots, all you hear is a...
Yeah.
Which made sex in context because there was so many people there.
Yeah, and they'll be ill as well.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, yeah.
So that cough went in between the two sounds and he didn't notice.
Oh my god.
And then when the director saw it, he's like, who coughed in that? And I was like, no, I'll put that in. He's like, why? And I was like, because the sound sounded shit. That cough rescued what it sounded like in between.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, it's but I think that is part of your genius. To be fair, like problem solving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's a lot of what filmmaking is, really. I mean, I'm sure anyone else who's on the course, who's listening, who is listening to these podcasts, I'm sure they'll agree that half of what we did and what we still do, if we're still, because we still engage in film, still, and it is a lot of problem solving. For example, I mean, we're editing. Me and you are currently in the middle of an edit. We've just started an edit on a
short film, yeah.
For a short film that we shot. At the back end of last year, in November, yeah, and we're finally like getting into like I mean, there is an edit that exists of this film, but like this is going to be the proper edit of it, and hopefully we can get it like sorted out in the next couple of months. But no, and because a lot of it will be problem solving, because that's what filmmaking is, But yes, back to what I was talking about, which does relate to Stranger Things.
That's what I'm talking about today.
Yeah. When we were shooting our film, our modern day slavery movie, it was ours was based on sex slavery. Which is like and this terrible thing that happens where like traffickers or like sex ring workers and things like that. They like prostitution workers. They stage like house parties.
Yeah.
Invite a bunch of people and get these girls or young women in like a really vulnerable state, and fill them with like alcohol and drugs and stuff, and do terrible things, and then blackmail them into basically doing sex work against their will. Terrible stuff.
Yeah.
But when we were doing ours, we were using my house for the for this alleged house party.
Yeah.
Can I just say as well, side note, if my house did not exist, I'm not sure what a lot of these films would have done.
Yeah, half the films are set in your house.
Like literally, I think it was the most filmed house in all of the university. So we decided to use that. And Adam Ginnog Watson, if you're listening, Adam, hello. He was the DOP on our film, and one of the things that he wanted to do was he wanted to use all practical lighting for the to light the scene in the house party. And one of the ways that he thought of doing it, the main way that he thought of that he did that was he set up fairy lights all the way across the room, across the kitchen and the dining room and stuff, and it looked great. It looked absolutely fantastic, but of course there was a few people on set who were going like, "Oh, this looks great," and then but loads of people were going like, "Will, is that you?" And all that sort of thing, because like there was a few bulbs that were like flashing and stuff like that, and of course everyone kept going, "Will, is that you? Will, is that you?" And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And of course, now that I've seen season 1, I know exactly where Adam got his idea from.
Yeah.
And what people were referring to, and I thought, oh my god, yeah, that's great. So Stranger Things was influencing our university degree in ways that I didn't even know. So yes, so I've seen Stranger Things, and I'm really glad that I have, and I'm really sad that I didn't say it earlier, like you were saying, because this is quite up my street, really. Yeah. I think, which is strange because when I was talking to Jamie about it, because I was saying, I'm going to be watching Stranger Things, and he was like, I'm not sure you're going to like it. And I was like, why? And he said, well, because it's like, a lot of it is like kids drama stuff, and like, I'm not sure I don't think that's your thing. So I was like, but to be fair, I was expecting that to be a lot more prevalent than it is. And I think it is there, but I think it's interwoven.
Yeah.
Very, very skillfully with the rest of what's going on, like within the show, and I think, for a start, I think Stranger Things is an excellent like callback and tribute and like homage or whatever you want to pronounce homage to the likes of Stephen King,
the Goonies, because of the kids and stuff,
like the Goonies, H.P. Lovecraft. Oh, like that sort of thing. Dungeons
and Dragons, obviously. Dungeons and
Dragons, like Brothers Grimm. Like Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. Like there's a lot of that there, but like it's basically just a giant tribute to like proper old-fashioned science fiction, like where like read like creature-based science fiction, also the 80s just in general. But 80s horror, 80s like science fiction, 80s adventure films. Like there's another one like there's bits of E.T. in there as well. Yeah. And it's just, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And even more like with the Stephen King connection, I was like, Mike, who's like sort of like he's not the main protagonist because there's several protagonists.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
He's like the main kid.
He's got the big focus.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but of course he's in It, isn't he?
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard.
He's in. And of course, people like, because I watched It before I watched Stranger Things. Yeah. And of course, people were going, "Oh, it's the kid from Stranger Things," and a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, It is very clearly inspired by Stranger Things," and I'm like, well, I think it's. I mean, this is a Stephen King adaptation, you know what I mean? So I think
it's one of them things where that's inspired that, but that's inspired that.
Like, yeah, literally, yeah. There's so many crossovers.
Inspired by the original, but the new one's inspired by what inspired that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many crossovers of inspirations, yeah, exactly. But they're all inspired by each other for some reason. But what did you think of it when you first watched it?
Loved it. Yeah. Like I remember came out. I think I watched it pretty much straight away. There was something I saw in the trailer, and I was like, I kind of want to watch this because all I thought was Goonies for the most part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not expecting like how horror it was, like the first episode, like getting stalked by the
by the Demogorgon.
Yeah, Demogorgon.
Yeah. And that was really quite it's quite excuse me, it's quite, that's a good point. What struck me about it was, because I was expecting it to be a lot more happy go lucky than it was at the beginning, the first few episodes. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it does become that way, like as the series goes on a little bit, you know.
Well, I'm thinking about it back now. I remember it being like classed as a horror as well, and just kind of being the first episode, sort of being on edge, like what's gonna happen, like
Yeah.
And you do see a few little hints, and you're like fuck. Then
Yeah, because I watched the first episode with my dad.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I've never seen this, I'm quite interested in it, and we watched it, and he was going, that's quite scary, isn't it? You know, and I thought, well, yeah, it's like, and then especially when it gets like the second episode and the third episode, because it all concerns the disappearance of Will.
Yeah.
And that's really quite, you know, because Winona Ryder, who is fantastic in this,
she's absolutely amazing.
she kills it in this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really strange because I've not seen a lot of films with Winona Ryder in, apart from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Beetlejuice, she was in.
She wasn't. I've still not seen Beetlejuice. That might be an episode in the future. But I've seen her in when she was. Granted, she was very young. She was like she must have been in like her early 20s or something in Bram Stoker.
IMDb now. Like.
Yeah, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, where she plays Mina Harker or Mina Murray, with Keanu Reeves playing Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
And she is terrible in that movie. Her and Keanu Reeves, they come across like they're in a high school or like a college like drama production.
Edward Scissorhands?
Oh my god, yes, of course she's in Edward Scissorhands, yes. She's good in that.
Yeah.
She's good in that, but she's like, she doesn't know kind of what she's doing in Dracula. It's like, right, we're doing high art here, you know what I mean? We're doing like this grand operatic adaptation of Dracula, right? And you've got Gary Oldman playing Dracula, who's giving it his absolute all. And Anthony Hopkins playing Van Helsing again, who's giving it his absolute all.
Yeah.
And then you've got Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, who don't really know what they're doing, and who are like just Keanu Reeves' accent. Do you know what I mean? In that
It never goes, no matter what.
It never ever gets anywhere. Count Dracula. Oh, I'm sorry, Count. I did not mean to offend you. I know where the bastard sleeps. Whoa. And Winona Ryder going, Jonathan, I missed you so much, Count. I love you, you know. And it's like, what's going on, you know? It's like, it's so strange. But she is fantastic in this. She plays like the whole thing about her character is just great, because there was never a moment where I was annoyed by her, you know, because I feel like those kind of characters, like the like these like really concerned like mother figures, who are like going to the ends of the earth to like find their missing sons and stuff. Like we've seen this kind of narrative before, like in, you know, things like Changeling and other movies, I guess. But you know what I mean. That doesn't come to mind. But you know, and you can often get like kind of annoyed by those characters because it gets a bit overbearing or it gets a bit unrealistic. But this is an unrealistic thing. It's a science fiction, so it's like, believe me, like her, like searching for her son.
She's very proactive.
She's so proactive. Like bloody hell. Like she's like buying a new phone constantly, and
to the point where everyone's like, she's fucking nuts.
She's crazy, exactly. Yeah, but what I love is, what I did love about it was that she, I mean, aside from what I said, where she never becomes overbearing, I don't think. You can see there's a logic to what she does and everything like that, but also she's also still like, she never goes mental. She's still like a rational human being in a sense, and that for me, that was solidified when they're all together at the end and they use Eleven's powers, which we'll get to in a second, to like go into the upside down, or the Veil of Shadows as it was referred to, to go and get Will. And there's a lovely bit where Winona Ryder says to Eleven, saying, "I'm going to be right here with you, and if it gets too scary or if it gets too like overwhelming or whatever, will get you out, but like, don't feel like you're alone. Like, I'll be with you the whole step of the way. And even when she does get scared, like in the Upside Down, like she's like, it's okay, you can do it, I'm here. And I thought that's great, because she could have easily have just gone like,
do it, get him back.
like literally do it, get him, like, I don't give a fuck, like, get my son, sort of thing, which she didn't do. She's still true to her character, and I thought that's great. That's great depth of character. It shows, it's like that situation, like in like really dire situations, people show you who they really are, to quote the Joker or whatever. And it's true, and it show people, but she was fantastic, and that's another thing as well that I liked, that it wasn't until like the last couple of episodes where people started to believe her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It like they sort of like came across it like quite quickly, because there's so many different threads. Like even the policeman, the chief.
Yeah.
Hopper, isn't it?
Yeah, David Hopper,
played by David Arbor, fantastically, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a great character. I love how he's like, obviously there's stuff going on with him. He's he's on sleeping pills. He's he's a bit rough around the edges, but he's still that archetypal, like, I'm a bit rough around the edges. I'm not like the most classical of policemen, but I'm a damn good policeman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like he's got intuition and he's got drive and stuff, and he's like, I was like, that's why he's the chief of police, you know what I mean? Because he can figure out a crime quite well. But that's what I loved. It's like he realized that like the body that they find in the lake
is not.
It isn't, and I thought, and that's another thing as well. They established really early on with that Full Metal Jacket man, Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know he was in Full Metal Jacket?
No. One film I've never seen.
You never seen Full Metal Jacket? No. Oh, it's great. It's really good.
Might have to halfway through this series just do my my friend Lee watches.
My friend Lee watches, which is like all these movies. Which is, well, have you still got COVID?
God no.
But no, he's in Full Metal. I was trying to think, who do I know? Who are you? Where do I know you from? And then I was like, Matthew Modine. It's Matthew Modine. He was in fucking Full Metal Jacket, and he plays Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket, and he's great in that. But there's this whole thing of like, he barely says anything.
Yeah.
In the entire thing, like he barely says any words, and that's like just, and I thought that was such a useful device to sort of like really establish like how sinister these people are, and the stakes are quite, I feel, are quite high from the beginning, because when Eleven escapes, who Millie Bobby Brown is actually fantastic.
Oh yeah.
In this thing. Actually, all of the child actors are really good in this.
Oh yeah. Fantastic cast for child actors.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like I've said, like during the Home Alone like review,
child actors can be annoying.
Child actors can be unbearable, and I was never annoyed once. In fact, I found them quite charming. I found them quite endearing. I believed it. I believed their interactions. I believed their the arcs that they go through.
Well, I think all the boys became good friends, like Offset as well.
Mm-hmm.
So which helps.
That always helps with on-screen chemistry as well. Like, I mean, you can tell in this performance as well. Like, they don't like each other and stuff like behind it. I mean, there's that. I always think of like talking about chemistry. Have you seen, there was this interview that Billy Connolly did a few years, like about 20 years ago or something. When he was on Michael Parkinson, and he was promoting the Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. And he was saying, and he was talking about how in films, how he often dies in films. But he was talking about on screen, sex scenes and stuff like that. And he was going, and I said, it was you did a film with Sharon Stone, didn't you? And he said, aye, Sharon Stone. You went, aye. Yeah,
it's like he's in the room with us.
And he went, no, she's a wonderful lady, and a credit to the motion picture industry. he went, no, we didn't really get on back and forth behind the camera, but there was a scene where she was playing because she was playing my wife, and there was a scene where we had to go to bed. And the director, and the director said to me, he said, are you gonna find this difficult? You know, going to bed with a woman you're not talking to, and I've been married for 25 years. He went, so it's not a problem. And you know, and I just like thinking of things like that. It's like people like actors who like hate each other, like behind the scenes and stuff like that. Like I'm sure there was a like Marlon Brando, like he couldn't stand Dennis Hopper.
Didn't
on the set of Apocalypse Now.
Tommy Lee Jones called Jim Carrey like a ridiculous man or something like that?
He said he went. There was them two did not get on the set of Batman Forever. I was talking about Batman Forever actually yesterday. With a friend of ours, Max. But there was apparently the story goes is that because Tommy Lee Jones, even though he does a ridiculous performance in that movie, he's really not very good, to be honest with you. I don't know why he decided to portray Two-Face in that way. But he's clearly having a good time.
Yeah.
But he was like, he hated Jim Carrey. He couldn't stand him. And there were like, he was in a restaurant, just minding his own business, and then Jim Carrey came in doing his thing. And they came over to Tommy Lee Jones to say hi to him. Apparently, he stood up, hugged him, and said in his ear, "I hate you. I really hate you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery." That's what it was, yeah. Yeah. I cannot sanction your buffoonery. And I'm like, have you seen your performance? You know? But yeah, that was it. And this is classic experience. So yeah, it's good that they all have like chemistry on hand.
Yeah.
But it's really well paced, this story. Something that I really quite appreciate is that in the story being like so well paced and stuff like that, it has perfect like time for all of the characters to sort of like show that they're not two-dimensional characters.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked. I liked that Steve. There's a thing about Steve.
Steve Harrington. Fucking redemption arc of the century.
I know, right? Like, holy shit! Like, I was so like, when he was introduced, I was like, okay, I know what they're gonna do with him.
He's the douche.
Yeah, he's the douche. And then, as the thing goes on, he's not really.
No, he's a great guy.
He's actually quite a nice. He's actually quite a nice guy. He's a bit of an idiot. Yeah. Like, he just makes ill-informed decisions. Because when you meet him, you think, oh yeah, he's the classic douche boyfriend, and you know she's gonna end up getting with Jonathan, which, I don't want you to spoil anything for me, but I'm sure that's what happens. Going by what happened, because I'm into season 2 now.
So this doesn't happen in season 1, don't they? Like,
not really.
It's kind of like hitting it, like he stays the night with her, and he thinks,
it's hinted. Yeah. There's clearly a chemistry between Jonathan and Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy's my favourite character in this whole thing.
Nancy's great.
Nancy is such a great character. And her... Excuse me.
She has great facial expressions as well. She seems to like...
Excellent actress.
Yeah.
Excellent actor. But what I liked about Steve was Steve... Because when you meet him, you think, oh yeah, he's going to be that classic thing, and then she's going to end up getting with Jonathan, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, he's going to totally distract her from... this whole thing with the test, and she's going to distract her from the test, and this, that, and the other. But, I mean, yeah, he does the classic 80s thing of where the boyfriend climbs the house. They might, like, were all houses, like, climbable, like, back then?
Yeah,
like,
they're all made of wood, just slats.
I suppose, yeah. I'm like, no wonder people get burgled, you know what I mean? Like, houses are that easy to get into. But yeah, like, he climbs up to the window, he taps on it, it's like, yeah, what are you doing, Jonathan? Like, I don't know, what are you doing, Steve? You know, that sort of thing. But he actually, I mean, we all know why he's there. We all know what he's got in his mind. Yeah. But, he wants a bit of Nancy. But he actually helps her study for the test.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
And I thought, yeah, you're actually a decent bloke, you know. I mean, and then when he gets a bit pissed off about the whole Jonathan thing, and again, Jonathan goes through another similar arc where it's like, because he is a bit of a creep. When you first meet him,
he's just a kind of like a loser, like a loner weirdo, really.
Like a loner weirdo, yeah. That you're not really. I'm like, okay, you know.
He listens to music where no one in America would have to listen to by then.
No, like,
where the hell would anyone find the Clash?
Exactly, like literally, like the Clash are not like would not like that bigger.
He must have had a very specific store. He found that.
I know, like especially like on like Rock Combat Rock, which was like the Clash's 5th album. Like, and I don't know. Did the Clash like start to get big in America like in the 80s?
Nah.
No.
Apparently, that single probably nowhere stocked in the 80s by then.
Yeah. So that's really strange.
So you found a very niche little store.
Yeah.
You found that song.
Yeah. Do you like the Clash? Yeah. Because of course the Clash are like massive now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The Clash are like. I mean, London Calling is my favorite LP of all time.
Yeah.
Ever. You know, and so that's really. I found that so interesting. That like they're talking about that weird music that Will keeps listening to. It's like, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
You know, and I find that so interesting. But you know, and of course, yeah, he's in the bushes. He's taking pictures of them. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I know what you're doing, but it's still a bit odd, you know. And of course, Steve is just playing up to his friends.
Yeah.
He's just giving in to peer pressure, really. And of course, he is still angry. He's angry with Jonathan. And of course, the bit where Jonathan like lashes out and sort of beats the shit out of Steve.
That's the start of the redemption arc.
Yeah, that's the bit where like because initially I was going, yeah, beat the shit out of him, go on, beat him up. But then I thought, while it was going on, I thought, oh no, actually no, actually, you know, you should stop. I am starting to feel a bit bad for Steve, and then you feel really bad for him in the next scene, because them two mates that he's got, they really are like douchebags. They're really awful people. Like they're the two-dimensional.
It's the popular kids.
Yeah, like the really awful, shallow piece of shit kids, you know. But and you get glimpses of it when he's actually actively going to look for Nancy and things like that, and then you know so yeah, and then when he helps fight the Demogorgon at the end, I was like, yes, Steve, get yourself back in there, son, go on, don't be useless, actually be useful, you know. So I really like that, and I'm really interested to see where his character goes in season 2, which I am watching at the minute. But we'll get into that at some other point. But yeah, and the whole thing with like Jonathan and Nancy's relationship, I think is so. It was just so. I mean, for a start, this is actually a point I'd like to make when I was watching. I was like, there's nothing really new here in Stranger Things in terms of like character archetypes, and character arcs and things like that. And I think when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I think this is what Jamie was getting at. Like, it is that classic 80s adventure kids movie thing with like the group of friends with their walkie-talkies,
just
with
for
those
added horror.
Yeah, like literally with those bikes, the Stephen King thing where they're running through a town, one of them does research, they find out that it's actually like a demon from like the depths of hell from like 1,000 years ago. One of their friends has been kidnapped and what have you. So in that sense, it's very inspired by it.
Oh yeah,
it's very, very heavily inspired by it, you know. And even more so when poor Barbara.
Yeah, just as poor.
That bloody woman. Honestly, I felt so bad for her. Like
there was a Twitter trend going after this season ended, just saying "Justice for Barb."
Justice for Barb, yeah.
Because, she was written in to die, and that was it. And she had so much potential as a character.
She had potential as a character, but see, this is where I'm conflicted with this sort of thing. It's like, this is the issue with like modern day, like how people like look at like series and media and stuff like that.
I think she was probably written as a character to die. She was meant to be the best friend who dies because she's off having sex, kind of thing.
True.
But then they've just made her a really good character.
Yeah, and that's why she had to die.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's why she had to die.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love a good love and character death.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
if a character dies that I love, I hate it, but I respect it.
But you respect it, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. But that's what I mean. It's like that's what like a lot of people don't like, you know, and I think that's why. I can't believe I'm bringing it up again.
Come
on. The Last Jedi. And that's why people don't like The Last Jedi. And but people like to and again, this is just my opinion. But I think this is why a lot of people don't like that movie, is because it does so much that you don't want, that you don't expect, and that you don't because people wanted Luke to come back and do the
Yeah.
lightsaber thing, and instead he did something really interesting instead.
Yeah.
Which humiliated Kylo Ren's character, which is ultimately better than defeating him in a lightsaber battle. Just saying. You know, and stuff like, and even Snoke's death. Like, people are like going, who was Snoke? You know, Snoke had so much potential as a character. No, he didn't. He was just bad guy of the week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he was just, what? He's just another version of the Emperor. That's all he is. Like, it doesn't matter who he is. He's not important. And it's more important that when Kylo Ren killed him and then did that whole thing of like, let all of it die. Let's move on. And I thought, yes, this is incredible. This is something different.
If they kept Rey as unimportant, I think Snoke being unimportant would have been better.
Well, exactly. There you go. Like, but then they fucked it by, because there was that wonderful line where she's like, you know who your parents are, don't you? They were nobodies. They were fucking nobodies. And I thought, yes, this is wonderful, because and then at the end,
technically there were nobody.
Oh,
kind of.
Oh God, honestly, like I hate that so much.
But your granddad fucked when he was
I
melty.
hate that so much. I hate that so much. So
Yeah,
terrible decision. But like, even that kid at the end of Last Jedi, I'm so sorry, I'm going off. But like when
the Force sensitive kid.
The Force sensitive kid. Everyone's going like, who is that kid? Like, how can he use the Force? How is that, like, because we need everything explained. We need a series of Wikipedia articles to explain it.
I mean, half the movie for the last film was Wikipedia.
Yeah, literally, it was just Wikipedia the movie. And it's like, I'm like, it doesn't matter who the kid is. It doesn't matter who he is. It doesn't matter that he's Force sensitive. It does. Well,
He's getting angry.
Yeah, because people don't understand. We seem to have forgotten the fundamentals of storytelling, because the whole point of The Last Jedi is learning from failure and moving on from it, because people are saying like, oh, it sets up all this stuff but it doesn't commit to it because ultimately Rey does become a Jedi, and Luke says, oh, I will not be the last Jedi. Yeah, because and they say like, so the movie didn't commit to the whole thing of like killing everything and moving on with something new. No, that's not the point. The point is learning from failure, because yes, Luke tried to set us something up, because the Jedi suck.
Yeah.
The Jedi fucking suck, right? And it's like,
Me and Sasha watching the Clone Wars right now.
Yeah.
We're still only in the first season, but even she's like, Jedi kind of shit.
Yeah, the Jedi are shit. They're woefully unprepared when the Sith return. That terrible ethos and code caused Anakin Skywalker to have an emotional breakdown. And instead of nurturing him and talking to him like a human being, they just turned him into like this robotic, repressed dude who, of course, he's going to turn into Darth Vader, And it's like, and Luke acknowledges this. After he tries to set it up again, it fails. Of course it fails, And he says, they're terrible. The Jedi need to die. They're terrible. They allowed Darth Sidious to jump to power in the height of their power. And like, he's absolutely right. And then when Yoda appears, he's like, yeah, we failed. Like, we failed, but this is what failure is about. We learn from failure and we progress. And that's exactly what Luke does. And that's exactly what Rey does,
Yeah.
It's like, because of course what Kylo Ren is proposing is wrong, because he's evil, and it's like, and then that's why his arc feels unjustified and in the next movie and blah, 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 terrible. But people need the kid explained at the end. They need to know who Snoke is. They need to know who all this is. But we need Snoke, a Star Wars story. We need Kid with Broom, a Star Wars story. Like, no, we don't, man. It's just accept that this is the perfect visual representation of the rebellion.
Have you watched Obi-Wan yet?
No.
Right, because there's a couple of things that explains so many little things, which is just pointless.
It's pointless. Like, of course it is.
Leia's blaster holster that she's got in Return of the Jedi?
No.
That was a significant thing she got given when she was a kid.
Who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't, like, it, like, who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
Because, like, he's a blaster horse, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like, okay, great. You know what I mean? It's like in Han Solo, a Star Wars story. It's like, I don't need to know where he got his gun from.
Or that he was called Solo.
Or that he was called Solo because he was on his own. Like, I don't give a... Like, what? Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway.
Good heist movie, though.
Yeah, it was a decent romp.
Yeah.
You know, and I enjoy, but that's the point. That's the thing. It doesn't ruin the experience, but it doesn't. It's not needed. It just reduces.
Oh, Obi-Wan's fan service, just fan service,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. I fully appreciate that's what it'll be, but it's like, you know, I don't know. It just annoys me so much that everybody needs something explained, because it's like the rebellion at the end of Last Jedi is reduced to like literally a handful of people.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's what, and like Leia and Poe Dameron, they all say it, and Luke says at the end, like, this will be the spark that will light the fire of the new rebellion. You know, this is what will do it. And that kid at the end, where he just does that little gesture with the force broom, you know, with the broom, and he sees the rebellion sign, and he looks up in the sky, and that's hope. You know, that is exactly what they meant by that.
That's a new hope.
That's a new hope, exactly. It's like, it's a symbol of like hope in the face of oppression, and that's what it's all about, you know. And that's why that movie's so good, you know. Anyway, Stranger Things.
This has been the Star Wars podcast.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think that's the third time I've said that.
This has been the Star Wars podcast, because it's such a problem, Star Wars.
It's
isn't
the it's the Last Jedi podcast again.
It's such a problem, that franchise. No, anyway, but on that, actually, I'm sure there's several references to Star Wars in Stranger Things, which is what I love. It's like, I love how they're all like, oh, but what if Elle can't be trusted? What if she's Lando Calrissian? You know, I love that so much. It's like, why would she sell us out? He's like, again, Lando Calrissian, you know.
Because what, it's set 86?
It's 1984,
84.
I think it's set in 84.
So yeah, it would have been a couple of years at least.
Yeah, because Star Wars, the original Star Wars came out in 77.
Then it was 80.
And then 1980, wasn't it, for Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was 86 for Return of the Jedi. Was it?
Earlier than that. I think there was only a 3-year gap between the all.
Really? Bloody hell.
Yeah, let's have a look. Keep on talking.
But yeah, I love the bond between them all.
83.
Oh, wow, 83. Bloody hell. Anyway, that's really surprising. But yeah, so like bloody, I loved all that. I loved like the references to like to you know, like all like the 80s nostalgia, and the music in it is excellent as well.
Oh yeah,
like so
80s
good.
synth.
80s synth, man. Bloody Joy Division atmosphere. The use of that when they discover Will's body. I'm doing air quotations, yeah. Like that was just so like so well used, and the original point I was making before, what was it? About the way you think characters will go. Barbara, that was it. Barbara.
Justice for Bob.
Barbara had to die.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yes, Barbara's a great character. Yes, she is like that sort of moral compass for Nancy in that moment.
Yeah.
But that's what will ultimately do Nancy's character well, because it's like her last memory of Barbara will be oh, this isn't you, this isn't who you are.
Yeah.
And she goes off and has sex and has sex with Steve, and it's like, yeah, this isn't ultimately who Nancy is, but but that will be her final memory of Bob. And to be fair, it's a little bit like Spider-Man's arc, in a sense. It's like, the whole her last memory is like very much his last memory of Uncle Ben.
Having the fight,
yeah, exactly. And then of course, this is what these characters need in order to spur them on to become better people. It's tragic, and it is unfortunate, but that is what happens in real life, And I know it's fiction, and this is the thing, but like if you right, you've got to have a great character like Bob, a sad character like Bob, who you feel sorry for, who you develop an attachment for, and then when she got transported to the upside down. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, when it happened, I thought that, her and Will are gonna meet up, and they're gonna have to like learn to survive with each other. And they'll ultimately get, rescued and stuff. But no, Bob dies immediately. Yeah. And it's in quite a scary, horrific way. Where she gets dragged back down to the swimming pool and stuff. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, okay, she's dead. And I was like, wow. But what it does is it does all that stuff for Nancy's character, which ultimately made her my favorite character in this story.
While we're still on the subject, I'm going to weeb out a bit. This is why I like anime so much.
Yeah.
Because it kills characters that you don't want to die and they die.
Exactly. Yeah.
Western media tends to like, oh, they survived somehow, or
I know, I hate that so much. It's like
Japan does it good. There's a few things I've watched where I've cried my eyes out.
yeah, exactly. Which is I know exactly. And this is what I've developed an appreciation for.
And I'm hoping you'll cry your eyes out too eventually.
I will one day. Lee, I promise you. I am an emotional human being, so it's undoubtedly going to happen. But no, that's the thing. It had to happen, and I'm so glad they committed to it. I'm so glad that Barbara did die, because I'm
going to clip that out of context. I'm so glad Barbara died.
I'm so glad she died. But purely because like throughout the entire season, I was going, she's gonna come back. There's gonna be some bullshit loophole where she wasn't actually dead, but no, she was. She's
dead.
She's dead, and I'm like, great, because it's what the story needs and it's what the characters need, because it establishes it then, because now we have stakes.
Yeah.
Now we should fear the Demogorgon. Now this is a reason why we should actually fear this character.
The main character dies, any other character can die.
That's so true. It's like exactly. If like a relatively important side character like Barbara can die, then any of them can.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like Will could legitimately die, and it's like it raises the stakes, and it's like, but you're right. We're so used to now in foreign media, like Western media, Western media, where like my gripes with the MCU and the whole Spider-Man thing. It's like it doesn't matter. Like we've established that there's no consequences for these characters and there's no stakes, so why should I care?
Yeah.
It's like, why should I care that Thanos snapped everything out of existence? They all came back in the end. No one died, really, so it doesn't matter. And it's like, even in No Way Home, it's like, even when you kill off Aunt May, you didn't build a character properly, so why should I care? I don't care. I don't care that you killed Aunt May. How can you kill Aunt May and I don't care?
Spider-Man video game though.
The
Spider-Man video game.
That's how you do it. That's how, if you're gonna kill Aunt May, that's how you do it. It's like that was my biggest criticism of that movie when I came out of it. I was like, how do you kill Aunt May? And I felt nothing.
I honestly forgot she died.
There you go.
I only watched 2 months ago.
That is that movie's biggest sin. But it's fine because all the Spider-Men come back anyway. But that's why Bob had to die. That's why Barbara had to die, And it's it was just so I actually was like, oh shit, so the Demogorgon is really a beast to be feared, And it's like, because they do that thing where they send like a random bloke who you've never met into the unknown. And then they pull out his string, and he's very dead. He's very gone. And that's fine, but it really means a lot when you do that with a really well-established, beloved character, which people really seem to. I mean, I felt something for Bob. I felt really bad for Bob.
A lot of people felt stuff for Bob.
Yeah, she was, but she had to die, man. She had to do it. She had to die, and I'm glad that they committed to it, because it ultimately spurred everything else. It was a perfect spur on for the rest of the season. And the whole thing with 11 is...
Oh God, we haven't even talked about 11
We haven't even talked about 11. I mean, like, that whole thing, like, I mean, 11's... Millie Bobby Brown nails this.
She is a great actress.
Excellent actress.
I really hope, for whatever she does in the future, she gets a role where she doesn't cry so much.
I know.
Which... She's good at it.
Very good at it.
But I want to see more. But she is really good.
She's so good in this series.
And she's British.
She is, isn't she?
British actress,
yeah. Which is great for the British acting community.
Yeah.
But what I love about this was like the flashbacks are really served. Actually, that's another thing that Stranger Things does pretty well, because the guy who she who initially finds it in the diner.
In the diner, yeah.
I immediately felt a connection to that guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a lovely bloke, like he's just like, oh, like this kid's fucked up, you know what I mean? Which is, but you see elements of that in the Chief.
Yeah.
In Hopper, And it's like, it's no wonder that Hopper was mates with this diner person, because the two of the characters are fairly similar.
Yeah.
In that sense of, like, they're quite rough around the edges, but they've got a heart of gold. And he was all like, yeah, I need to call social services because this kid has clearly been abused.
Yeah.
And there's something not right about this kid. And he's really nice to her. And he's like, oh, you can smile, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you, that sort of thing. And I thought that was great. But then when they kill him off, straight away, I'm like, oh fuck, right? These guys are bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they are always referred to as the bad people.
Yeah, just the bad men.
Just the bad men. The bad men. I'm like, they are. They're very bad people. And there's and Matthew Modine nails it as like the evil doctory bloke.
Papa,
yeah, and even that's just haunting as well. Because is he actually a dad?
No, he's just kind of. I don't think it's not established that he's dad, but
It isn't, is it? Really? No. But
because his mum was part of an MK Ultra experiment, so.
Fuck, is that what it was?
That's what I meant. Yeah, when they go investigate about her.
Yeah,
because she was part of the MK Ultra, so she was put full of psychedelics, and that's apparently what made Elle psychic.
Like superhuman.
Yeah, superhuman.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, she's got Jean Grey's powers, hasn't she?
Yeah, pretty
basically, much. Yeah. But that's and there's a few X-Men references as well, isn't there? I think as well in this. I'm sure there is. I'm sure they refer to her.
Oh, they will have.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're nerds, so But yeah, there is like that when she stops the fan, and what I love is that. What I really, really like is that her powers. When you were introduced to 11, her powers aren't natural.
Yeah.
There's a clear indication that they're not natural by the fact that it really hurts her.
Yeah, she gets a nosebleed every time she.
Exactly, she gets a nosebleed every time that she really uses her powers in excess.
Yeah.
And that's like, and that's a perfect indication that that something's really not right here. She shouldn't be able to do this, and that she's not born with these powers. They don't come naturally to her. So, of course, that she's gonna there's gonna be like some physical ailment there. And I thought that was a wonderful detail. And the whole thing with her mother, the whole thing about the MK Ultra thing, like MK Ultra is really fucked up.
Oh yeah.
Like when you think about it, because it's
most CIA experiments are fucked up.
I know, because it's a real thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like MK Ultra. Jesus, because
they just pop people full of psychedelic drugs and stuff, and
yeah,
mostly pregnant women as well, just to see what would happen.
Yeah, and because what were they trying? They were trying to do mind control.
Yeah, it's mind control.
Fucking hell, Jesus. And that's one of the biggest things that I really quite liked about this shit, because I'm a massive Cold War buff, like history buff.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most fascinating periods in modern history. Because obviously we know so much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's still some stuff that we're not. That there's still stuff that I'm sure we're not like fully sure about in World War II or World War One, or like the rise of Nazi Germany in the 30s and 20s and stuff. But like that's a really well documented period of history.
Yeah.
There's countless books and documentaries and films about World War II and World War One and stuff like that, because it's fascinating. And it's like, I mean, Hitler, bad dude, and everybody loves a bit of Nazi Germany, don't we?
Yeah.
That's another one for the quote books.
Yep, everyone loves a bit of Nazi Germany.
Everybody loves a bit of Nazi Germany. But the Cold War, I think, is endlessly fascinating, and I would argue even more fascinating, because there's so much of it that we still don't know about, because it wasn't really a war.
Yeah.
In the strictest of senses, but it was a long drawn out conflict behind the scenes, and everybody, when we talk about that period we always talk about it in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and the 80s, and it's AIDS, boomboxes, and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
With the 70s, it was David Bowie, Watergate, and Vietnam. Well, I mean, a little bit of Vietnam.
60s.
Yeah,
it went from 60s to 70s.
Yeah, exactly. So like the 60s, like the moon landing, the Beatles in Vietnam, and the civil rights thing and all that, But the Cold War covered all of it.
Yeah.
that is all of it. It's those 3 decades and the 50s, like all in one package. And so much happened over that period of history, and like the battle between the Soviet Union and the United States, incredibly fascinating. And the Berlin Wall aside, like the stuff that they were doing here, like they're clearly trying to forge 11 into a weapon.
Yeah. Fight them pesky Russians.
Fight those bloody and God, doesn't history repeat itself? Because right now, folks at home, I'm sure that
to be fair, Russia's territory is an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah.
Throughout the I don't know, at least the past century. Mm-hmm. Even more than that, you see expanding, going back, just goes like.
Yeah, and that's what Putin's so annoyed about. Yeah. Really, because he has said, like, he's on. I'm sure I've said this before.
He's a KGB nut job.
The dude's insane. Like, he's proper old school.
Cold War era.
Cold War era. He's a proper KGB. Well, he was a KGB.
Yeah, he
agent,
was KGB.
He's proper old school KGB. So that's why he's just. He's on record of saying that the biggest tragedy of the 20th century is the fall of the Soviet Union. So really, he's annoyed that they've lost all that territory.
Yeah.
So like they lost all the satellite states and like places like Ukraine and Belarus and all the rest, like all got like their independence and became independent states and countries and stuff. And he ultimately wants all of that back. So I know there's like conflicting, like people saying conflicting reasons why he's invading Ukraine. But for me, it's fairly straightforward why he wants to rebuild. He wants to rebuild the Soviet Union, essentially. And that's very simplified. So when we're looking at things like this, like Stranger Things, not only is it like relevant that that season 4 is coming out very soon. Well, it is out, but bits of it are out.
When this podcast goes up, the last 2 episodes should be on.
Right, I see. And but it's like it's a Cold War drama, really. Essentially, it's all stemmed from the United States' conflict with the Soviet Union, and it's like this is what we're doing. We're harvesting like these people who have got supernatural abilities, for nefarious needs, and it's like it's scary because I'm sure that shit like this is going on right now.
Oh,
do you
probably.
know what I mean? Like behind the scenes. I'm not suggesting. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that they've got like a Superman type being locked up.
Get your tinfoil hats out, lads.
Oh, here we go. I'm not suggesting for a second that there is an alien being kept in Area 51, where they're trying to develop them into a super weapon against Russia right now, because we've kind of entered Cold War Part 2. When this that's what I've always been saying, is like this conflict with Russia right now. In Ukraine will either result in 2 things. Worst case scenario, it's the Third World War, where everybody gets involved. Second scenario, which is not great, but
not World War 3.
Not World War 3, is Cold War 2, Cold War Part 2. Where
Cold Warning.
The Cold Warning, yeah. So like where Russia has now become the bad guy again. It used to be the Middle East. It used to be like Afghanistan, this, that, and the other, like back in the past 20 years. It used to be China at some point. Well, it was going to be China. They were in the last 10 years, they were kind of gearing it up to be China, to be the next bad guy again, because of like the coronavirus didn't help. And also the whole thing about like the censorship of like people's rights and things like that, and all that sort of thing.
When's America going to be the bad guy?
When's America going to be the big bad?
They are, but
they always have been the big bad. Ever since Woodrow Wilson. Ugh. Anyway, but now Russia have come back with a vengeance and like, no, we are the bad guys. But so when watching things like this, Stranger Things, it's relevant. It's strange how things come round in circles and stuff like that. It's like just watching poor 11 and her struggle. Just because she doesn't know friendship. She has to learn things like friendship. And even things like trust. Like trust issues and stuff like that. And it's really weird because I think you think of like the forbidden experiment, in language development. Have you heard about this?
Go for it.
So when I was doing English in like, A-level English and stuff, we're looking at the development of how people learn English and learn language really.
Yeah.
And how we develop as human beings and stuff like that. So when you see kids in the wild who haven't had like a traditional classical bringing up and experience and things like that, you see them like they're walking on all fours and they've sort of developed their own language and their own way of communicating with like different wildlife and things like that and what have you.
There's a really famous girl, and I can't remember her name.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, I know the experiment was psychology. I took.
But when they found her and then brought them into like human like
Society
basically, yeah, that's it, the society. They found that they developed at a surprisingly quick speed that they thought they would, where they learned how to communicate in like traditional standards and things like that, or like using like English and other languages and things like that. So it's sort of thrown scientists and psychologists in like this weird thing of like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe we underestimated like human beings' ability to like learn things. And of course, the only way that they would, so they're like, would humans learn language their own by themselves, without help from any external sources? That's basically the other question. And of course, the forbidden experiment, which is stopped by and they say, well, the only way that we would know this is as if we locked a baby in a dark room, in a room totally isolated from ever experiencing human contact, ever, and watch it grow.
Yeah.
And watch it develop into a human, like a fully grown human being. How would it function? How would it learn? How would it learn to sort of take in the world around it? Would it develop its own language? What would happen? You know? But we can't ever do that, because that's morally bankrupt.
Give it a few years, America will probably do it at one point.
Or they might be doing that, you know, like they might be doing that behind the scenes. I mean, look what they're doing to poor 11, and you know, in this situation, they're probably doing the forbidden experiment. We don't know, but it just reminded me so much of that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like trust and even love with bloody Mike. You know, he develops like feelings for 11, you know, and you feel so bad for him, you know, because like when the two of them do develop their bond and stuff, and when she ultimately kills the Demogorgon at the end, it's like you do. Yeah, I mean, I knew that she wasn't gonna. I was like, oh, she's not dead. Of course, she's not. Of course, she's not dead. You know, you can't kill off 11, but it's like, but yeah, I just love, again, I just love the character dynamics and stuff like that, you know, and you know, and of course, one of them, what's the name of the, I can't remember the names of these kids. What's the one with the no teeth?
Right, when you said that, it's went out my head. And all I thought was Beans from that stupid Chris Simpson's artist fucking comic.
So it's the kid with no teeth, and the other one, the black kid. What's his name?
I'm gonna just go through his now casting characters.
I can't remember the names
because it's gone out of my head. Dustin and Lucas.
That was it. Yeah, I like that Lucas was just so untrusting of 11, because of course he would be. You know, of course he would. But it's like, you know, the kid's just gone. You know, their friend's just gone missing. You know, she's weird. She's got no hair. She's using like telekinesis and shit like that. You know, and but I like that they all came round. You know, because there is that whole thing of like, it's good for 11 to notice like this is how trust is developed.
Yeah.
You know, and this is how, you know, skepticism works. You know, and things like that. You know, it's like she's exposed to all these you know, all these emotions and things like that, and like learning right from wrong and what have you. But David Arbor, on that, like his crusade to find Will, you understand at the end like why he's so dedicated to finding this kid. It's because he has in fact lost
a kid,
a kid himself, you know. And the scene where he's resuscitating Will, I found absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually was choking up a little bit. I actually found that really emotional because, you know, it's like redemption for a lot of these characters, and I think that's ultimately the theme of that season. Because when you mentioned before about Steve having a redemption arc, I think that's ultimately what the entire season's about, really.
Yeah.
It's about redemption. You know, it's about redemption for the sense of like it's Winona Ryder, I suppose, like getting redemption for, well, I suppose redemption in a sense because like her family's sort of broken down.
Yeah.
Her husband's an asshole. He's off, doing his own thing where he doesn't care. It's redemption for Jonathan because he like feels guilty about not being there for his brother who ultimately went missing, and he feels responsible again. Well, Winona Ryder also feels that sense of like responsibility, but she just, her entire thing is like, I've now got these two boys, my husband has left me, like my marriage is broken down, my family's broken down, but I'm gonna do my best to rebuild it again.
Yeah.
And that is redemption for her. It's redemption for David Arbor, for Hopper, because he lost his daughter, so he's not going to lose another child who he feels responsibility for, because he's the chief. He is the protector of this town, and of course he takes his job very seriously. And I thought that's just wonderful to see, and of course Steve, redemption, for not being an asshole, and the rest of the boys as well, because Lucas obviously is Lucas is kind of like the most, I don't want to say unlikable, because you understand his skepticism.
He's a skeptic of the group, yeah.
He's the skeptic, but you understand it. You understand where he's coming from, and of course in the end he's like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, like I understand where you're coming from. And then he goes full Rambo, and then goes out on his own and finds the base and stuff, and he warns them all, again, redemption, redeems himself a little bit, and even Nancy and Jonathan, they both go on like this, like it's the Spider-Man arc. It's a redemption arc, it's like, I failed my friend, but I will not fail her in death, and great, absolutely fantastic. So when they all come together, they've all, and again, like they've all figured out different aspects of the mystery.
Yeah.
But then it all comes together and they all fill in each other's gaps. And I thought, God, fantastic, brilliant. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I was thoroughly invested in the story, thoroughly invested in the whole thing. And the teacher.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's wonderful, isn't he? Oh, what a wonderful man. I thought he was gonna die. I thought, when
I mean, when you get that far, and he's explaining everything. He's like, "Oh, you're really good. Well, what's gonna happen?"
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh no. I was like, oh, he's getting invested here, isn't he? And then there was a bit where, because when he explains like the concept of multi-dimensional, when he's basically explaining string theory. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh mate, you should be somewhere else. You shouldn't be in this town.
Hey, 12-year-old kids.
Yeah, like
Talk about string
this
theory.
is how quantum physics works at a wake. You know what I mean? Like, I remember he just didn't question it. But what I liked was, but when he gets visited by the fake social services lady.
Yeah.
Who gets her? I forgot about that. They all get quite gruesome deaths, don't they?
Yeah.
Jesus. Like when 11 just melts their brains, and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, shit, that's gonna come round again. Actually, now that I've remembered that's gonna come round again to bite them on the arse. In a later season probably. But when he got visited by the fake social services woman, I thought, oh no, don't kill the physics, don't kill him. Don't kill him, please, because he's wonderful. He's everything what teachers should be. The last thing we need is to send a message to, if you're a good engaged teacher in your students' lives, this is what's going to happen to you. But they didn't.
Yeah.
Even later on, when they send fake repairman to say, so this is the radio that was used to communicate to the other side, and like, oh yeah, this radio belongs to this teacher, and like, does it now? And I thought, oh no, oh no, they're gonna kill him, but they didn't. And even when he's watching that, what movie was he watching with his girlfriend, his partner, or whatever?
I cannot remember.
It was some famous. It was The Thing. It was John Carpenter's The Thing. And of course, again, another reference to another great cult horror movie, which ultimately I was going to mention something that's in season 2 there, but I'll leave it. Again, there's nods constantly to like these horror movies where it's like these undiscovered, like these misunderstood creatures that could be anywhere, And I thought that was quite a lovely little parallel there to the Demogorgon. But when the Demogorgon comes out the wall,
Yeah.
when she's communicating with, she's so clever. You know what I mean? Like Winona Ryder. What I appreciate about Winona Ryder is like, this mother is so driven. People do really clever things when they're driven and when they're in dire situations, and she's like, communicate with me, and she's like, run. And when the lights are going, run. It's like, run from what? And then the fucking thing comes out the wall, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! And when they fight it at the end with the traps and stuff, and but no, I'm glad they didn't kill the physics teacher, and I'm glad that he answered the phone, and I'm glad that he helped them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, well, parallel dimensions, yeah. I mean,
Don't know why he's asking about this, but yeah, I'll tell you.
I'll tell him anyway. You know, what's the worst that could happen?
This is my life's goal to talk about.
I'm just glad that someone's asking me about it. You know, like I'm so happy. You know, and his lovely little sweater vest and his mustache. Oh, precious man, this beautiful man. Anyway, that ignited another because my parents were watching this periodically with me.
Yeah.
And you know the bit where they decide to kill the Demogorgon, Nancy and Jonathan.
Yeah.
And they go to this like army surplus store and buy basically like a bomb making kit.
Yeah.
Like and they buy all this mad shit and the guy goes, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "We're hunting monsters." And he just goes, "Oh well, whatever," you know. And my mum went, and that right there is why America has so many mass shootings. And I thought, yeah,
that's the Second Amendment right there.
yeah, literally, that's the Second Amendment, perfectly illustrated right there. They don't like it. And she went, "They're teenagers," and it was that easy for them just to go and buy this this lethal shit, you know. And then look what they build in the house, and I'm like, you know,
Home Alone
literally,
times 10.
Home Alone times 10. It's like, you know, it's like we keep showing these things of like, you know, it's like, and then the son, when he got arrested, you know, when Jonathan got arrested for beating up Steve,
yeah.
and I was like, you know, they're like, oh, they're like, you assaulted a police officer, and then all he gets is like a stern word saying, "Don't do this again." I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you should look in Jonathan's boot. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, because I mean, this kid's a domestic terrorist, really. You know, it's like.
You know, the creepy kid at school's got all these weapons. You're going to be like, red
Yeah.
flag.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is why we shouldn't bully kids. This is why we shouldn't bully anyone, because we'll turn them into domestic terrorists. You know what I mean? They will come back and shoot your ass. You know? They will. And it's what happens, you know? But yeah, like, I thoroughly enjoyed this series.
Good.
And I thought, wonderful character development for basically everybody. I think everybody gets their time to shine. And if I've missed off anyone, I do apologize if I've missed off anyone's favorite character. I mean, did you have any favorite moments in this series?
I mean, like I said, I've only watched it once.
You watched it the one.
Steve's redemption arc, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bit with the lights as well. Just
yeah, perfect, isn't it?
Just hearing "Should I stay or should I go?" Just all.
Yeah, it's great. It's just wonderful. Wonderful moments, wonderful pacing, wonderful development in the characters, wonderful writing. I think it's really well written. And this is something interesting that you said. I think you either said this like off mic or actually on last week's episode. You said that this
should end in one.
Probably should have been a one and done thing.
When I watched season 4, I immediately went nah.
You immediately went no, nah. As in
that kept on going. It should be kept on going.
They should have kept on going. Oh, so season 4's good.
Yeah, really good.
Okay, right, that's interesting. Okay.
I think it's just because it's been a while since I watched it, and it just sat in the back of my mind. I was like, can I really do this more? And yet I've watched what? Well, by the time this is out, 9 films worth of a season. And honestly, it's been really good.
Yeah.
I've been gripped for the most part.
Excellent.
Because that's just what I sat down and watched. I was like, yeah, I'll just watch it because, you know, it's Stranger Things. Gonna have to.
Of course. Sure.
And then I've been gripped. The only downside was time. I was just watching 2 films in one day.
Well, yeah, because they are really long on these episodes. Yeah.
Right about an hour and a half.
Bloody hell. Christ.
I think the last episode's like 2.5 hours or 3 hours.
Fucking hell, man. Really?
Yeah.
3 hours?
3 hours.
This is a movie.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Netflix's budget went on sacking all the staff and stacking all the animation departments so they could make Stranger Things the movies.
Yeah.
And all the people that sacked off, they're going to put back in the Hunger Games.
Crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. I mean, like, as I say, I am watching season 2 right now.
Yeah.
So I will give my... Is that going to be next week's?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Stranger Things is going to be the new hotness for a while. People are going to be talking about it for weeks. Might as well keep on
Why
going.
not? I'll give my thoughts on season 2. I mean, I'm currently 3 episodes in as of the time of recording this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be watching the next thing. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't believe it's taken me this long to watch it. It's
That's the beauty of the show. Get your stuff watched that you should have watched.
It is, man. Exactly. You know, and it's just, you know, God bless the 80s.
Yes.
You know, and I know it's the decade that sort of gave birth to the modern era, in a lot of ways.
I was born in the 80s.
You were gave birth to Lee. You know, God, you're born in 1989. That's mental. You know, but
I mean, I only had 2 weeks of it or so, but you know.
Oh God, yeah. But no, God bless the 80s, man, and God bless Stranger Things, and God bless this podcast.
I'm just gonna end it there.
Yeah.